Hello, horror freaks. Horror Man Mike here. And summer has always been my favorite season. I've noticed a lot of the movies that I happen to really enjoy take place in the summertime or have the season as a backdrop for the events that take place in the film. So, stepping away from Sequels Don't Suck just for a bit, I wanted to highlight some of my favorite films that take place during my favorite time of the year. And when it comes to summertime slashers, today's film, Friday the 13th, is pretty much the gold standard. A lot of films have taken inspiration from Friday the 13th, despite the fact that Friday the 13th has itself taken inspiration from other films before it. One day in early 1979, director Sean S. Cunningham called up writer Victor Miller and essentially said, Halloween is making a lot of money at the box office. Let's rip it off. On July 4th of that year, they ran a printed ad with only a tagline and a title. The most terrifying film ever made, Friday the 13th. They were already hyping the film and they didn't even have a script yet, but they went to a boys' summer camp in New Jersey and they filmed it and they got the film in the can, as they say. I don't know if they still say that. I don't know if real film is still carried around in metal canisters anymore, but whatever, that's what they used to say. Anyways, you can do an entire documentary on this film alone in the making of it, but I personally do not have that kind of time or resources or patience. Friday the 13th has become an incredibly well-received horror movie, and it's still a summertime slasher worth revisiting, as well as a rite of passage for many horror fans to either show their friends or to discover on their own for the first time as they look into the history of horror and get into 80s movies. I can't remember my first brush with this film, but I have seen it many times. Growing up in woodsy towns in eastern Massachusetts, it was very easy for me to buy into the film and immerse myself into the setting, because the setting of Friday the 13th is, I just look outside my back door and that's pretty much, I'm there. The characters are generally likable people, and their gruesome deaths are handled masterfully by Tom Savini and set to a terrifying score by, of course, Harry Manfredini. A lot of talent went into this film and it shows. It's like a low-budget B-movie slasher as well as a Hollywood blockbuster at the same time. Although most of the cast didn't really rocket to superstardom, there are two exceptions that I want to make note of here. Betsy Palmer has starred in 22 films, 6 Broadway plays, and guest starred on no less than 73 television shows. Yet, because her car broke down and she needed $600 worth of cash, she took on the bit role of Pamela Voorhees in a little independent film, Friday the 13th, which ironically would be the role that she would be most remembered for. On the other end of the spectrum, Friday the 13th also starred a young man by the name of Kevin Bacon. Although it wasn't his first role, it helped him get some attention and put his career in motion. Friday the 13th didn't really it wasn't as big a stepping stone for him as, say, like Footloose was, but it did help him along the way. Kevin Bacon has now starred in over 65 films. Many of them are like very, very good. And I feel like between Betsy Palmer and Kevin Bacon, Friday the 13th is kind of a symbolic passing of the torch from one generation of great Hollywood actors to another. So on a cool summer night, or even on a rainy afternoon, which is how I revisited this film for this review this year, Friday the 13th is certainly worth rewatching and revisiting. It has become a staple of my go-to summertime rewatches, and it helped kick off my personal favorite horror franchise. So that does it for me for today, and that does it for Friday the 13th. As much as I would love to do like a deep dive on just this film alone, you could do a dive on the whole franchise, and many other people have, but you could do a deep dive just on this film alone. I'm not even going to try to do that because other people have done much better jobs than I have. In particular, if you're looking for a good documentary, I would recommend Crystal Lake Memories. That documents kind of the entire Friday the 13th series, but if you want to specifically highlight just the first film, there was a documentary called His Name Was Jason. And that is also a very, very good documentary. But honestly, if you go into YouTube and you type Friday the 13th documentary, you're going to get a list of just people covering this film, and they've done a much better job than I could hope to. But that does it for me for today. Keep your overnight bags packed, kids, because we are moving from Camp Crystal Lake to Camp Blackfoot. My name is Horror Man Mike, and I will see you in the next video.